DirtTrax is sponsored by Can-Am, the ride says it all. Polaris, the hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicles. Hatfield McCoy Trails, where hundreds of miles of off-road adventure await you today. And by Yamaha, the first name in motorsports.
I've been to Brimstone a number of times over the past few seasons. I've been to their White Knuckle event a number of times. I've been to their side-by-side ATV roundup event and raced their King of the Mountain race in a side-by-side. I've been to Brimstone enough to know my way around there quite well.
When you're at Brimstone, it's all about the atmosphere, it's all about the people, it's all about the attitude. It's about ATVing and side-by-siding and having a great time. The White Knuckle event is just like, you know what, it's like a jamboree type event where a whole bunch of riders come together at Brimstone. And there's, there's drag racing, there's the mud pit, there's an obstacle course, there's trail riding, there's music, there's food, there's everything wrapped into one big event. It's just an all-around good time. This year, Luke and I kind of talked to each other about White Knuckle, and we wanted to figure out a plan for what to do different. We go to all kinds of different ride destinations, we do all kinds of different events, and generally are involved in really cool stuff most of the time with this job. So we wanted to change this one a little bit and give somebody else an experience, and who better than, our really good friends.
I've known Joel and Stefan for 15 years. We were reminiscing in the car on the way down. It's 15 years or more. Pretty much any trouble I've ever got into, any cool story I've got to tell, they're in it. So that's why I brought them down. I figured if we're gonna make another cool story, or if I'm gonna have another cool memory, I want them to be in it too.
We just said to ourselves, hey, let's do something fun this year, and let's go with some people who don't get the opportunity to do this, so that we can see exactly what they're experiencing, and kind of get a first-hand feel for what most people who would go to an event like White Knuckle are gonna feel, and kind of get their impressions of it.
I've taken both Joel and Stefan on different trips on our snowmobile show, Dirt Trax Television, a number of times, and we've always had a ton of fun. So they aren't regulars on the show, but they're familiar faces to any of our viewers who do watch Dirt Trax TV.
I've been friends with Luke and AJ and Stefan for upwards of 15 years.
We hung out at church and at youth group events together, and yeah, we've done a lot of crazy stuff over the years.
80 kilometers of portages in a matter of 4 days. And
camping for sure. Big camping trips to Algonquin Park. Lots of road trips to various places.
Drive from our home in Halliburton to Ohio to my aunt's house, just for fun.
Taping a GT snow racer to a piece of plywood and pulling it behind the boat because we could, or building a huge rail for something that we wanted to slide wakeboards across, or we just always had something that was a little out there that we wanted to do.
Those are the kind of things that just brings us all closer together, and where we are now, like this is another example of one of those events that we're going to remember forever.
My past experiences of White Knuckle have been very good, but I sort of started going to White Knuckle when it was in its infancy, and it was quite a small event. They would get, 1,000 people, and they had good events, the mud run and all the things you'd expect, but it just wasn't something that was national. It wasn't huge, and it wasn't a must-go-to event.
In past years, White Knuckle used to be at the top of a mountain, but they've moved it, and they've totally built right out of absolute forest this really cool facility where I imagine most of their events are going to be held now, because it's just a great spot.
Everything was well laid out. They had a big stage where they had the concerts, and it looked pretty serious. Like, these guys knew what they were doing.
My initial reaction to seeing the actual grounds of the event, I was blown away. There's a lot of people there, and how much you can fry food, really. You can fry everything.
Which one is a fried Oreo? That one?
Those there?
What's that one?
Cookie dough,
What's that one?
moon pie.
Wow.
You don't get out much, do you, Hall?
Oh yeah.
Typically when Luke and I go to you know, an event like the White Knuckle, we're there to cover it and we hang out, you know, we show some of the events and whatnot, but this year having friends with us, we thought, no, we're gonna join every event, we're gonna get in there, we're gonna get dirty, we're gonna have fun, and we're gonna make sure that, you know, we take home some trophies or we go home with a little less, you know, a little less skin and a little blood showing.
Part of the reason we were so excited about the competitions was because on the ride down in the car, between the four of us, we decided that we were gonna throw in sort of a friendly little competition. Each of us are gonna compete in each one of the events, and whoever does the best on average overall wins.
So when we first drove up to the White Knuckle event grounds, I was actually pretty impressed.
There was a lot of vendors and a lot of people having fun. It was really exciting.
After seeing the event grounds and knowing that Joel and Stefan were going to be competing, I felt pretty good because the place was really professionally put together. I mean, they did a great job, and you know, everything was really well designed. So I knew that these guys were going to have some fun.
To be perfectly honest, I'm more comfortable with Stefan being in the competitions than I am with Joel being in the competitions.
When you think about Joel and Stefan's skill, you really think skill when you think Stefan, and when you think Joel, you don't.
I think Stefan will be cautious but competent in the competition. I don't think he'll take chances, and I don't think he'll wreck anything. Joel, on the other hand, while he'll attempt to be cautious, he's just sort of a tornado of events and things happening, so I'm a little concerned.
I didn't really know how I was going to do in the actual events, just because I've never competed in anything like this before, so I didn't have super high expectations for myself. I just thought, you know what, just go out, and as long as I finish and don't wreck anything or hurt myself, that was my goal.
Coming into the event, I definitely felt like the underdog, but that's nothing new for me. Generally, when I'm running with the guys, I am the least experienced.
I would have to say that the most anticipated events at White Knuckle were probably the main events, which are the drag strip, the mud run, and the obstacle course, because those are the ones that you sign up for. The first event of the day was the drag race, and how the drag race works is it's who has the fastest time from light to light.
For the drag race, I actually got to go head-to-head with Luke, so that made me even more nervous, just because of our little competition we had going on with each other.
When I hit the throttle, all I saw was Stefan go by me and dust, and that was it. And we got to the end of the line, it was like, I guess I'm not gonna win the drag race.
I actually, believe it or not, got the best time out of the four of us, so I was pretty pumped. And even more shocking, I actually won first place in our class that I was in. So I got a little trophy, and so that was pretty cool.
Next event of the day was the obstacle course. Essentially, this was a point A to point B race with, big surprise, obstacles in the middle. First obstacle was the creek, and I just jumped right over it and then held that Scrambler 850 wide open as much as possible, ripping through the corners. It was awesome.
As soon as I made that first turn, my nerves sort of settled and I was like, oh, this isn't so bad.
After seeing some of the smaller bikes go through the obstacle course, I was definitely feeling more nervous about it. But I feel like I wheeled that bus through there pretty well.
When it came to me, I knew that mud tires probably weren't the best ones for getting traction through an obstacle course. There was a little bit of mud in the course, but not enough to really give me all that much of a benefit.
So, when it was all wrapped up and it was all said and done, I went home with the gold #1 trophy.
Thank you very much, sir. Now Stefan's got something to catch up to, eh?
The final event of the day is the Mudbog, and it's a lot like Mexican food. I mean, you go in one end and you just hope that you come out the other.
For the mud run, we were again divided into classes, and Stefan and I were again in the same class. So when the flag dropped and we both held it wide open, Stefan just hit the mud and took off. And it was like, how can this be happening again? And we did it all again. This time we switched lanes. Stefan got the lane I was in before. I got the other lane. I got all like technical and I'm gonna win this time. So I'm standing on the back rack and want to get the wheels up. And right at the end, I got held up on something and I figured, you know what? I'm muddy, I'm not gonna win. Let's just hold her wide open, throw the mud as far as I can and hope the crowd likes it. And that's what I did.
I was extremely excited for the Mudbog, both because, who doesn't like getting dirty? And there was only 2 of us competing in the side-by-side, so I knew I was guaranteed to get a trophy.
With Joel in the Mudbog, we definitely thought that he had a little bit of a disadvantage. Not because, any of the other stuff we've been kind of, harping on him about, mainly because he was riding an XP900 and it's just a bigger overall vehicle. I think all of our concern was pretty much all for naught because he did great.
Joel Potter, second place.
Our little internal competition that we had going on ended up, I ended up winning, believe it or not, which I didn't think that was going to happen at all. I thought for sure it was going to be either Luke or AJ, just because they've been around ATVs their whole life. And so I was pretty shocked, but also kind of happy too, because it gives me some bragging rights that I'll be able to hang on for a while at least anyways.
They'll never be the same again, ever.
Having experiences like this in my life are super important because, these are the moments that define you. Outside of my family, my wife and my daughter, it's stuff like this that I'm gonna remember. It's stuff like this that I look back on, and that the memories are really fond. And it's things like this that a lot of other people just don't get to do. They just don't get to spend time with their good friends and go do stuff like this. I'm so blessed to work for DirtTrax and to be able to go out and take my friends along on an event like this. And you know what? If you go to White Knuckle or you go to another event like this at any ride destination, you're gonna have a great time. So grab some of your buddies, even if they don't have ATVs or side-by-sides, take them along, You're gonna experience something totally different, and I guarantee you won't forget it. It's worth it.
It was definitely apparent to me how much this event has grown. The last time I was there, it was, in one small field and there was maybe a few thousand people at best. Now it's in this giant event area. There are thousands and thousands of people. It's huge. It's like a carnival for ATVers.
Once you're here, you're just riding ATVs and side-by-sides everywhere. So everywhere that you look, there's a guy or a girl riding an ATV or a side-by-side. So it was pretty an impressive sight.
It's like in past years, it was a good event, but it kind of seemed a little smaller. Now, it seems like it's really reached its peak, and that it's, you know, they got some momentum going, and this event is one that you really want to go to.
Arctic Cat knows something about the ATV business, and here it is. The middle of the market is where the sales are, and to prove the point, the company offers 4 engine sizes: 400, 450, 500, and 550 cc's in no less than 7 different variants in what is arguably referred to as the 500 cc class. On this week's test ride, we're going to get up close with Arctic Cat's 500 XT 4x4, a model with undeniable potential to capture the most attention among its many siblings. This model has the right combination of both sizzle and steak at a value price that's just, well, stupid. Check out the standard equipment load on the 500 XT 4x4. A throaty 443cc single overhead cam 4-valve EFI single, driving an engine braking equipped CVT tranny with high-low range. There's long travel independent rear suspension, long travel front suspension, great gauges, full painted bodywork, Arctic Cat's proprietary speed rack, a full-on 2-inch hitch receiver, and sweet aluminum wheels shorn with premium Duro 2-star skins. There's no denying ATV buyers like stuff, and the 500 XT has lots of stuff, standard. However, after the sizzle of stuff wears off, there has to be serious potential for performance in the XT. And in fact, that is where the 500 XT delivers, particularly in the gnarliest terrain. In our humble opinion, there isn't another full-size 4x4 chassis that can navigate garbage terrain better than this Arctic Cat platform. There's over 11 inches of ground clearance and, just as importantly, a fully skid-plated underbelly that's as smooth as a boat hull. Arctic Cat's full-size 4x4 chassis used here in the XT also offers a steep front spindle angle, producing aggressive and tight handlebar response when threading the needle on forsaken surfaces. Arctic Cat has made a calculated compromise with the 500 XT chassis. They have prioritized low-speed, rough terrain navigation over high-speed, on-center feel and linear turn-in. Here's the deal. The 500 XT is not as settled at speed as it might be with less aggressive steering geometry. We get what Arctic Cat's up to here. However, this may require a little getting used to for some riders. Arctic Cat ride quality has taken a big leap ahead since the company decided to calibrate more ride-in or sag from their rear IFS. This move produces a less jiggly and more plush feel when hammering a rough trail at moderate speeds. The upscale models in Arctic Cat's lineup using the same chassis as the XT now include a rear anti-sway bar that improves cornering feel exponentially. We think it would be a good addition to the 500 XT. Engine performance from the 443cc single overhead cam single is impressive. However, most impressive is the amount of low-end grunt on tap when you depress the loud handle. Four-by-four operation is simple, and Arctic Cat's upgraded 4x4 diff locker switchgear is easy to toggle, even when muddy. We need to say this right now. The 500 XT 4x4 is among the nicest looking, most well-proportioned ATVs in the biz. With standard automotive quality, glossy paint, and stylish aluminum wheels, we guarantee no one is going to think you bought a downscale econo ride when you pull up on your shiny new XT. Arctic Cat is a player in the ATV and side-by-side biz in model year 2013. Their ATVs have forged a solid reputation for reliability and good performance. Make no mistake about this reality. The 500 XT 4x4 represents excellent value in this all-important segment. If value matters, and we think that's a given, plan a trip to your Arctic Cat store before you buy any 500 class ride.
Dirt Trax Television has been sponsored by Polaris, the hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicles. Can-Am, the ride says it all. MBRP Performance Exhaust, making power with MBRP. And by Arctic Cat, share our passion.